I love working on my cars, but just as much, I love actually driving them. A lot of people I know learn to love driving by spending time on a racetrack. I'm not exactly like that. I hope to someday, but I've never been in the position in my life to take a car on track. So where'd I fall in love with driving then? Since I've never been on track, my definition for really enjoying a car is driving it on a back road. Off the beaten trail, slightly out of town, surrounded by really nothing but nature. You get the chance to really learn and bond with your car, or anyone you bring along for the ride. I'm lucky enough to live really close to some fantastic roads. I've got a tremendous selection. And honestly, not all back roads are created equal. There's one back road near me that, in my mind, stands above the rest. It's my favorite road, and it was on that road that I can remember falling in love with driving. To say the road is punishing to power would be an understatement. It's a roughly 12-mile loop around a lake, fully paved with over 53 solid corners, most of which are more than 90 degrees. My favorite car memory takes place here. This is back when I had my first car, a base model Acura RSX, 5-speed, 160 horsepower, front-wheel drive, and pretty much no real assistance to driving. My friend and I found this road in his A3 VR6, a much faster all-wheel drive car. The Acura would be slow on nearly any other road, but since it was so light and controllable, it felt like it was set up just for this road. If I really pushed it, I could just barely keep up with it. You had to really drive well to get any sort of speed out of that car. That's why it was satisfying, and that's why I fell in love with driving. Driving a slow car fast enough to keep up with a much faster car. The Acura's been gone for years, and I've missed driving that road like that. My current cars are way faster on this road, but they don't have the same charm. I think I found something to fix that though. A couple weeks ago, while preparing the TT for warmer weather, I got an interesting phone call. Through a friend of mine, I heard about someone slightly out of town who was getting rid of a car of theirs, one that I hadn't ever really considered. At first, I wasn't that interested in it. I figured, what could it hurt to give him a call? So I did. And about 15 minutes later, after hearing what the car was and what condition it was in, I hopped in my car and left. Ironically, the longest drive I've ever taken the S4 on, and it worked flawlessly. And for more context, the suspension was wrapped up pretty much the day before. So what a great test. I got to the guy's house, and the car was exactly as described. In fact, I really liked it. But I had a lot to think about. It was a lot different than the current channel cars. It's 2 or 3 days later. I really liked that car. I saw a crazy amount of potential. It's light, it's nimble, it's super chuckable, and the seats are incredible. A car with the original Windows sticker, service records from when it was brand new, a complete documented engine rebuild by the manufacturer within the last 30,000 miles, new water pump, thermostat. It is a weirdly good car. At the end of test driving it and viewing it, I made an offer. It was a low offer on an already low asking price. And I am happy to say we're actually on our way to the bank right now. We're gonna go pick up the third project for the channel, and I honestly can't believe it, and I am so stoked. I hope you guys see as much potential in this car as I do, because I have some fun plans for it. I've been looking for a third channel car for quite a long time now. I had a huge list of potential platforms, and at the time, this one wasn't even on it. This new project platform that we're buying today is not one that I've ever talked about on the channel, so it might catch some of you off guard. To be honest, this was a very quick situation. This car popped up. It's one that I had realistically thought that I lost my chance to own because they are appreciating in value so much, especially in the condition that this is with the documentation that it has. I think you will agree with me that this was worth dropping everything this weekend to go look at. It's a really cool platform and a really cool car. For the time being, We're heading to the bank to go get cash, and then we're gonna get a ride to go meet this guy and pick up the car. I'm really excited, and I hope you are too. Like every time I make a purchase like this, I'm always stressed driving to the bank. I feel like it's pretty natural to second guess any large purchase. I guess it's kind of like buyer's remorse, but in this case I hadn't bought anything yet. Would I like it as much the second day? Would I make it there on time? Was it all a scam? Because the price he was willing to accept was kind of a ridiculous deal. That's the funny thing about life though. Sometimes you worry for absolutely no reason. And in this case, I don't think that could be more true. He met me halfway, I test drove the car again, and it was everything I remembered. I see a ton of potential in this car. It's a lot different than my first car, and honestly, any car I've ever owned. But in some ways, it's almost like a spiritual successor. Something I might be able to recreate the feeling from that memory with. So, I bought it. This is my 1991 BMW E30 325i, and it's rad. With the peeling paint and the mismatched hood and fender, you might think this car wasn't taken care of. But that's where you and I were wrong. Whoever owned this car loved it, and you can tell, just not from the outside. Let's take it one step at a time, starting with the interior. This car has period correct OEM sport seats. They're bucket seats, and they might be the best bucket seats I've ever sat in. It's also got an M3 steering wheel, a ZHP shift knob, and for how old the car is, the interior is immaculate. No check engine lights, no codes, and it just might run better than both of my cars. Speaking of running, let's check under the hood. Another randomly cool feature is the fact that the hood is a clamshell, because race car. Sitting in here is the OEM engine, an M20 B25, rebuilt by a dealership within the last 40,000 miles. New timing, no blown fuses, and a weirdly specific Laguna Green paint job. I don't think it's too common, and I really like it. This straight six puts out about 170 horsepower, and with the new coolant system, it doesn't even overheat. It's incredibly analog, but that's not even the coolest part about this car. With it came a ton of records, and not even just oil change records. This car has dealer receipts from when it was brand new up until a month ago. Everything that's ever been done to this car is in here, including the original window sticker from 1991. Talk about a time capsule. $28,000 in 1991. A California car. It's obviously not perfect, but it's really good. These cars have some notable rust issues, particularly the trunk leaks, and they like to rust out in here. Next to the newish battery, you can see that almost all the panels under here look like they're brand new. I honestly don't know if many things have been in this trunk. It is bizarrely clean. The interior only has a couple things wrong. This door card's cracked, and there's a pretty big tear in one of the sports seats. Both of those are fixable though. Under the car, it gets even better. I can't find any structural rust, and the car even has an upgraded spec E30 suspension, installed at the dealership with paperwork, of course. The only rust I can find is just a little bit of surface rust where the paint is chipping. All in all though, this is kind of a ridiculous find. I'm gonna have a whole episode dedicated to actually looking through this car and giving it my own sort of a diagnosis. I just wanted to touch on that a little bit in this video. Now, here's what you might be wondering. What do I want to do with this car? I think there's a couple ways we can go with it. E30s are jacks of all trades. Nearly any type of motorsport, they were there. 50-50 weight distribution, rear-wheel drive, manual, incredibly lightweight. Oh, and you can make almost as much power as you could realistically want. They regularly fit LS engines, and you can even turbo the stock block. So as far as that's concerned, the sky's the limit. I'm kind of split 50-50, and I want your opinion on it. With the amount of documentation I have on this car, a more traditional OEM Plus restoration could be a lot of fun. I'm talking nice exhaust, nice headers, actually fixing the paint, ITBs, and we'd have have a ridiculously good sounding car that is incredibly fun to drive. We definitely wouldn't lose the spirit of the car. I don't think it would ever be fast like that, but it would sure be fun and definitely engaging, and it'll probably be worth a pretty penny. In other words, we'd be turning this car into a very engaging handling car, perfectly suited for recreating that memory of mine. Or there's a couple other options. If we want to get a little more involved, we could change this car up just a bit more. I've always wanted to learn to turbo a car, and honestly, it's quite easy to do on this platform. There's a ton of room, and on the stock block you can push more power than the TT can, which is scary when you consider this car is nearly 500 pounds lighter. It's also a car that responds well to engine swaps, and there's a whole list of ones that go in comfortably. So in other words, I think we have 3 distinct paths, and I'm open to almost any of them because I'm going to learn a lot on the way either way. No matter what, we'll overhaul braking, handling, and cosmetics, but I'm genuinely curious to hear what you want to see out of the engine aspect. No matter which option we go though, I'm not going to lose drivability. I don't want 1,000 horsepower. I don't want anything even remotely close to that. My only goal for this car is to set it up to be as much fun as physically possible on my favorite road, and I think it's got more than enough potential. I see this car as primarily a learning opportunity. No matter which route we take it, I'm gonna learn something new from a car building standpoint. But that's not all I want to learn from this car. I consider myself an alright driver, but I know I can get better. And I think what I'm looking forward to most with this build is learning rear-wheel drive. And I wanna make it my goal to learn how to actually drive well. So, if my goal is to learn to drive this car really well, we might as well get started. How about we get a benchmark on my favorite road? What's immediately surprising is just how quick this car feels for 168 horsepower. It's torquey, it's responsive, and it sounds good. But the best part by far is how this car handles. I don't just think this car has the potential to match the feeling that my first car gave me on this road. I think it has the potential to be that much fun and more. I spent an afternoon out here, really getting to learn this car on this road, starting to really appreciate what it is. The steering is direct, and that makes sense since it's entirely mechanical. It's a feeling that can't be replicated with an electric steering rack. The gear shifts are smooth, the weight transfer's there, and you don't realize how quick you're going until you look down at the speedometer. A lot of really cool cars drive this road, and today was no exception. We ran into a Legacy GT which was following us the entire way, and it was very, very far from stock, easily running 2 to 3 times the horsepower this car has, but we were taking corners faster. In other words, in its stock form, this car is already doing what I wanted it to, being a car perfectly suited to these tight corners. This is the third project car for my channel, and my goal is to make the most out of it. I have a lot planned, and believe it or not, I've actually got a lot of parts already. I've kept this car a secret for a little bit, and I hope you're as excited to see my vision for it as I am to make it. I want to thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed or learned something, consider dropping a like and subscribing for more. It's the best way you can help support me and the content I make. Like I've mentioned, I have a lot planned for the channel and not just for this car. So I hope you're excited. Seriously, thank you again for watching. I'll see you in the next episode. Have a wonderful day.